Netanyahu's new max security nuclear bunker has just shocked the entire world, and what's inside it is darker than anyone is reporting. While the world was watching his wars above ground, Netanyahu was quietly building something beneath it. A fortress so advanced, so secretive, and so prepared for the unthinkable that it has left world leaders speechless. But to truly understand just how extraordinary Netanyahu's bunker is, we first need to put it in context. So let's look at the 5 most powerful doomsday bunkers on the planet. Because by the time we get to number 1, you'll realize Netanyahu didn't just build a bunker. He built a survival plan for the apocalypse. Chapter 5. Cheyenne Mountain Complex, USA. Most people think nuclear bunkers are a thing of the past. Cheyenne Mountain is proof they are very much the present. Carved into the granite heart of a Colorado mountain, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex is the most famous doomsday bunker ever built. You've seen it in movies. You've seen it in video games. Governments around the world have studied it, replicated it, and tried to surpass it. And yet, even after 60 years, nothing that comes after it on this list was built without taking Cheyenne Mountain as its blueprint. Here's what it actually took to build it. Miners excavated 693,000 tons of granite using more than 1 million pounds of explosives. What they carved out was not a room, not a shelter. It is a fully self-contained underground city, spanning 5.1 acres, housing 15 separate buildings, complete with its own power plant, heating and cooling systems, and a series of underground lakes that provide a permanent water supply. There is a health clinic inside that mountain, a chapel, a barbershop, 30 days worth of food and supplies for hundreds of people, all sealed behind walls that the outside world cannot touch. But here's where it gets extraordinary. Every single building inside Cheyenne Mountain sits on 1,319 steel springs, each one weighing approximately 1,000 pounds, designed to absorb the shockwave of a nuclear detonation and keep the facility operational while the world above it is being destroyed. The buildings don't sit on the ground. They float, on springs, inside a mountain, so that the people inside can keep running a war while civilization ends above them. And the doors, 2 blast doors, each one 3.5 feet thick, weighing 23 tons, guard the entrance to the complex. They can be sealed in 45 seconds flat, and they are tested every single day. Between those blast doors and the outside world sits a 2-mile tunnel with a 90-degree curve, engineered so that the shockwave of a nuclear blast skims the door rather than hitting it dead on. Every detail, every angle, every measurement, designed for one scenario only. Then there's the detail that stops people cold when they first hear it. The facility is designed to protect against nuclear, chemical, biological, and radiological attacks, as well as cyber terrorism and electromagnetic pulses. At the push of a button, blast valves seal every air intake, water line, fuel line, and sewer line running into the complex, cutting it off from the outside world entirely and keeping those inside alive while everything outside falls apart. The men and women inside would not just survive a nuclear war, they would be expected to manage it, in real time, from inside a mountain. Today, the complex sits in warm standby. Skeleton crews maintain it around the clock, running training exercises and conflict simulations, keeping it ready for the moment it's needed. Because the people who built it know something the rest of us prefer not to think about. The scenario it was built for hasn't gone away, it has just been waiting. Cheyenne Mountain is number 5 on this list. And if the most famous nuclear bunker on Earth is only number 5, what comes next will make it look like a basement shelter. Chapter 4. Raven Rock Mountain Complex, USA. Most people have never heard of it. The United States government prefers it that way. Cheyenne Mountain is famous. Movies have been made about it, documentaries, tourist merchandise. Everyone knows it exists. But Raven Rock? Raven Rock is the one they don't talk about, and that silence is entirely intentional. Officially known as the Alternate Joint Communications Center, Raven Rock Mountain Complex, or Site R, is a hardened underground command center built into a Pennsylvania mountain on the Maryland border, designed to serve as the shadow Pentagon. Not a backup, not a shelter, a fully operational shadow government, ready to take over the United States military the moment Washington, D.C. stops existing. But here's where it gets extraordinary. Inside that mountain sit 5 freestanding 3-story buildings, and they are not attached to the cave walls. They float, mounted on massive spring systems, so that the shockwave of a nuclear detonation rolls through the mountain without destroying the structures inside, just like Cheyenne Mountain. Because the men who designed these facilities knew something terrifying. A nuclear blast doesn't just destroy what it hits, it sends a shockwave through the Earth itself, and they engineered around it. Site R is entirely self-sufficient. Dual power plants, multiple underground water reservoirs, a sophisticated ventilation system that seals completely in the event of a chemical or biological attack. Inside those 5 buildings are office spaces, dining facilities, a hospital, a dental clinic, and a chapel. One construction worker who helped build it described the tunnels as a town. Streets and everything. And they pump the air in. The site has 700,000 square feet of interior space, enough room for 3,000 people, not 3,000 civilians. 3,000 of the most senior military commanders, intelligence officials, and government decision-makers in the United States. The people who, if Washington burns, would be expected to keep fighting. From inside a mountain in Pennsylvania. And then came the moment that proved it wasn't just a Cold War relic. September 11th, 2001. The Pentagon was on fire. The United States was under attack on its own soil for the first time in modern history. And within hours, 5 helicopters landed on Raven Rock Mountain. SUVs rushed the passengers down the mountain road and through a large portal that disappeared into the hillside. The blast doors sealed behind them. For the first time in its history, the underground Pentagon was activated. Not as a drill, not as a simulation. For real. What nobody outside the facility knew was what was happening inside those walls in the hours that followed. Who was giving orders? What decisions were being made? What nuclear options were being considered? As one journalist put it, if at that exact moment the president had decided to launch nuclear war, Raven Rock is where the call would have been made. Think about that. The building where America's nuclear war would begin is inside a mountain most Americans have never heard of. And then there's the tunnel, rumored for decades, an underground passage connecting Raven Rock directly to Camp David just 6 miles away, giving a sitting president an escape route so secret that it has never been officially confirmed or denied. Not confirmed, not denied, just silence. Raven Rock is number 4 on this list. But the next bunker on our countdown belongs to a man who doesn't answer questions about it, who has never explained it, and whose government has refused to tell the world what is being built inside a mountain so remote. Even American intelligence agencies spent decades trying to figure it out. Chapter 3. Mount Yamantau, Russia. Raven Rock is a secret the United States keeps from its own people. Mount Yamantau is a secret Russia keeps from the entire world, including the United States, and that distinction matters enormously. Deep in the Ural Mountains of southern Russia sits a peak called Yamantau. In the local Bashkir language, the name translates to one thing: Evil Mountain. And for decades, American intelligence agencies have been trying to figure out what Russia is hiding inside it. They still don't have a complete answer. Russia has made sure of that. Here is what we do know, and it is staggering. Construction on the Yamantau complex began in the late 1970s during the Brezhnev era. Tens of thousands of workers were sent to this remote mountain. US spy satellites picked them up. Still working, as recently as the late 1990s, even as Russia's economy was collapsing around them. Think about that. While ordinary Russians were lining up for bread and the Soviet Union was disintegrating, the Kremlin was still pouring resources into whatever is buried inside this mountain. Whatever is in there, they considered it more important than feeding their own people. But here's where it gets extraordinary. The facility is said to cover an area of up to 400 square miles, roughly the size of the entire Washington, D.C. area inside the Beltway. Not a room, not a building, not even a complex. An underground zone the size of a capital city, buried beneath a mountain range so remote that getting there requires days of travel through some of the harshest terrain in Russia. Large rail lines serve the facility. 2 military garrisons, each said to house 30,000 workers, were built on the site. 60,000 people, living and working on top of and around a facility that Russia refuses to explain. And when the United States asked directly what was being built, Russia gave 4 different answers at 4 different times. A mining site, a repository for Russian national treasures, a food storage area, and a bunker for Russian leaders in case of nuclear war. 4 answers, each one contradicting the last. Russia's own defense ministry eventually stopped even attempting an explanation, stating simply that it does not discuss military facilities under construction. Not a denial, not a confirmation, just silence. What he didn't know, what Washington didn't know, was that the silence itself was the answer. U.S. intelligence sources assessed in 1996 that the facility could house up to 60,000 people. Beyond sheltering Russia's leadership, Yamantau is also believed to be linked to Russia's so-called dead hand system, a doomsday mechanism designed to automatically launch a nuclear counterattack even if every Russian command center has already been destroyed. Read that again. Even if Putin is dead. Even if Moscow is ash, even if every general, every admiral, and every official in the Russian chain of command has been wiped out, the missiles still launch, automatically from inside Evil Mountain. The command center is said to sit approximately 3,000 feet straight down from the summit, deep enough that a direct nuclear strike on the mountain itself might not reach it. And in 1997, the United States Congress formally raised the alarm, stating that Russia's continued secrecy around Yamantau did not appear to be consistent with the spirit of post-Cold War cooperation, and demanding answers that never came. To this day, no Western journalist, no foreign diplomat, and no intelligence agency has been able to confirm exactly what is inside Evil Mountain. Russia has never invited anyone in, Russia has never explained it, and Russia has never stopped building it. Mount Yamantau is number 3 on this list. But the next bunker doesn't belong to a superpower with a centuries-old military tradition. It belongs to a nation that has turned secrecy into a science and built something beneath its capital city so vast, so hidden, and so connected that even the people living above it have no idea it exists. Chapter 2. Beijing Military City. China Mount Yamantau is a secret Russia built decades ago and refuses to explain. China looked at that and decided to go bigger, much bigger, and they're building it right now. In January 2025, satellite images began circulating among Western intelligence analysts that stopped everyone cold. A 1,500-acre construction site had appeared roughly 20 miles southwest of Beijing, with deep holes that military experts assessed would house large, hardened bunkers to protect Chinese military leaders during any conflict, including potentially a nuclear war. Cranes working around the clock, excavation pits stretching as far as satellite imagery could capture, and not a single official word from Beijing about what was being built. Intelligence analysts gave it a name, Beijing Military City. But here's where it gets extraordinary. This is a facility that Xi Jinping has reportedly prepared in advance in the event of a war over Taiwan, or even a nuclear conflict. A hiding and escape location believed to be the safest possible refuge for China's top leadership in a doomsday scenario, and the scale of it is almost impossible to comprehend. Analysts drew comparisons to the deep underground bunkers Chairman Mao fled to during the 1969 border conflict with the nuclear-armed Soviet Union, except this facility is being built with 21st century engineering, hardened specifically against the most advanced American bunker buster munitions ever developed. How big is it? The new complex is expected to be 10 times the size of the United States Pentagon. 10 times. The Pentagon, the largest office building on Earth, home to 26,000 employees. And China is building something 10 times its size. Underground, beneath a mountain range southwest of Beijing, right now. And this is just what the satellites can see, because beneath Beijing itself, hidden in plain sight beneath one of the world's most populated cities, lies something that has existed for decades and that most people have never heard of. A vast network of underground tunnels built during the Cold War, constructed by more than 300,000 citizens, including schoolchildren, designed to move half of Beijing's entire population underground in the event of a nuclear attack. The tunnels are rumored to connect Zhongnanhai, China's leadership compound where Xi Jinping lives and works, to military bases on the outskirts of the city. Every major government building, every key military installation, all connected, underground, by tunnels that officially don't exist. The main entrance to Xi's primary command facility sits inside the Western Hills National Forest Park, so in the event of a nuclear strike, China's top leaders would not have far to go from Zhongnanhai before disappearing underground entirely. One moment they are in their offices, the next, they are gone, beneath the earth, unreachable, still in command. But this was just the beginning of what China was building. A former CIA Deputy Assistant Director for East Asia told the Financial Times that if confirmed, this new advanced underground command bunker signals Beijing's intent to build not only a world-class conventional force, but an advanced nuclear warfighting capability. And the nuclear dimension of this story is chilling. China has tripled its nuclear warhead stockpile since 2020, from around 200 to an estimated 600 warheads. They are not just building a place to hide. They are building a place from which to fight a nuclear war and win it. As one China researcher put it, this fortress only serves one purpose: to act as a doomsday bunker for China's increasingly sophisticated and capable military. What Xi Jinping didn't know was that the satellites were watching every shovel of dirt being moved, and that Washington was already updating its target lists accordingly. Beijing Military City is number 2 on this list, but the bunker at number 1 wasn't built for a hypothetical war. It wasn't built as a precaution. It wasn't built to send a message to adversaries. It was built and then used in real time, while missiles were already in the air, and the man inside it had just fired the very people responsible for keeping him alive. Chapter 1. Israel's National Management Center. Every bunker on this list was built for a war that hadn't happened yet. Netanyahu's was activated while the missiles were already in the air. That is the difference. That is why he is number 1. Let's start with the moment that changed everything. October 1st, 2024. Iran launched a barrage of ballistic missiles at Israel, one of the largest direct missile attacks on a sovereign nation in modern history. Sirens across the country, citizens diving for shelter, Iron Dome lighting up the sky, and as Israelis scrambled for cover, Israel's security cabinet convened in a bunker. Not a conference room, not a war room in Tel Aviv. Underground, while the attack was happening above them. That is not a drill. That is not a precaution. That is a wartime prime minister, directing a live military response from inside a nuclear bunker in real time. But this was just the beginning. The facility they retreated into has a name most people have never heard: the National Management Center, or, as those inside the Israeli security establishment have quietly come to call it, the modern Noah's Ark. Israel has classified the bunker's depth at the same level of secrecy as its nuclear weapons program. Read that again. The depth of this bunker, not its contents, not its capabilities, just how far underground it goes, is considered as sensitive as Israel's nuclear secrets. That is the level of protection we are talking about. So what is actually inside it? The underground complex in the Jerusalem hills is protected from all possible threats: earthquakes, nuclear, conventional, chemical, biological attacks, and cyber attacks. It has its own power supply, its own water, its own air filtration systems. It is capable of sustaining hundreds of people over a prolonged period of time, with living quarters, conference halls, and command facilities built deep underground. The offices of the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister sit adjacent to the main operations room, so that even at the end of the world, Israel's chain of command remains intact. Those who have visited describe descending in elevators so fast it feels like a science fiction film, arriving in a place that feels completely isolated from the world above, yet without any sense of claustrophobia. One of the few people who has been inside described it simply as a place that instills awe. From here, Netanyahu and the leaders will command a burning nation. And then came the detail that nobody outside Israel's inner circle was supposed to know. Anyone entering the bunker must surrender their phone at the entrance. The underground location blocks all cellular reception entirely. No signals in, no signals out, no leaks, no surveillance, no possibility of interception. In a world where foreign intelligence agencies, Iranian, Russian, and others, are hunting Netanyahu's movements, his communications, and his vulnerabilities around the clock, the bunker doesn't just protect his body, it makes him electronically invisible. He disappears, completely, and yet he remains in full command of one of the most advanced militaries on Earth. But Netanyahu wasn't done, because the bunker is only part of the story. What happened above ground, in the weeks and months surrounding Iran's attacks, revealed a man fighting a survival battle on every front simultaneously. In October 2024, a Hezbollah drone struck his private residence in Caesarea. 2 drones were intercepted. The third landed directly on his home. Iran's Revolutionary Guards then publicly declared they had targeted his office with K-bar ballistic missiles. Iranian media, aligned with the supreme leader, stated that Iran's response would target the residences of the criminal leaders. And Netanyahu was at the top of that list. An Iranian MP put it even more bluntly: "We will settle for nothing less than Netanyahu's head." And so Netanyahu did something that shocked even his own security apparatus. He began moving constantly between his official residence on Balfour Street in Jerusalem, a private apartment on Azza Street, his villa in Caesarea, and a villa owned by a billionaire associate in Jerusalem's Talpiot neighborhood, which is said to contain its own private atomic bunker. The Prime Minister of Israel, moving between safe houses, sleeping in different locations, every single night, because the men hunting him know his address. They've already hit it once. What he didn't know was that the attacks were about to escalate beyond anything his security team had planned for. Iran's Revolutionary Guards publicly announced they had targeted Netanyahu's own office using K-bar missiles, in strikes that Israeli authorities immediately moved to censor, blocking journalists from filming the damage. The Israeli military imposed a blackout. Satellite imagery of the surrounding area was blurred. And in the fog of war, rumors began to circulate through international intelligence networks that Iranian strikes had reached closer to Netanyahu himself than Israel was willing to officially confirm. And through all of this, the drone on his roof, the missiles aimed at his office, the ICC arrest warrant following him across the globe, the firing of his own Shin Bet chief, Netanyahu kept going underground. Literally. The National Management Center was designed as a modern Noah's Ark, planned for years based on similar underground security cities in the United States, built to house the Israeli government and essential civilian agencies during an all-out war, including, in a worst-case scenario, a nuclear conflict. 5 bunkers, 5 nations, 5 fortresses built for the end of the world, but only one of them has already been used. While the bombs were falling, while the missiles were in the air, while the man inside it was simultaneously fighting a war, evading assassination, dodging an international arrest warrant, and dismantling the very intelligence apparatus responsible for keeping him alive. Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't just have the most extraordinary bunker on this list. He is the only leader on this list who has already needed it. And right now, today, as the war with Iran continues and the threats against his life multiply by the day, the elevator doors of the modern Noah's Ark remain on standby. Because Netanyahu knows something that every other leader on this list has only prepared for. The end of the world doesn't announce itself. It just arrives.